Welcome back to Sportsbook Review Videos. It is week number 14 of the NFL, and it is the stretch run of the playoffs here for the NFL as well. And I am back once again to release my player and team prop picks from Bet365 Sportsbook. Starting with the player realm here, we'll go with a prop on Jeremy Hill of the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week at home with a rushing yards total of 55.5. Now, Gio Bernard has not seen a whole lot of work over the last few weeks, and it has been Hill with the majority of the both snaps and offensive carries here for the Cincinnati Bengals. But it's also been because they've been up pretty heavily over their last two games against inferior opponents compared to their divisional rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers, this week. And if the game script goes the way that it looks like, this game could turn into a shootout, and it could be Bernard that sees the field and sees more snaps this week compared to Jeremy Hill. And at 55.5, while it may seem like a value to go over, I am going under this week for Jeremy Hill. The Pittsburgh Steelers have surprisingly been very good against the run over the last 5 weeks. If you take away one big Jeremy Hill run, or excuse me, if you take away one big Latavius Murray run from when they played the Raiders, of about 44 yards. The Steelers are giving up only about 68 rushing yards per game. They've played some pretty good rushing teams, including the Seattle Seahawks, over the last 5 weeks as well. Even if you add that Murray run back in, they've given up only about 77 rushing yards per game. So I think under 55 here for Jeremy Hill is the way to go at minus 115. Next up is Sam Bradford, who has an over-under of 237.5 for passing yards this week. Now, last week, Sam Bradford only threw the ball 24 times for 120 yards in the win over the New England Patriots. And if you take a look at the Eagles' wins this season, a pattern emerges. It's really with the exception of only one game. Bradford has averaged about 35 or fewer pass attempts per game in those wins this season, and in the games where he had more than around 250 yards or so. He had to throw the ball at least 40 times. I don't think that happens this week for the Philadelphia Eagles coming off that win. He hasn't thrown the ball more than 50 times in 2 weeks. I think the Eagles and Chip Kelly stated that game script limit him to more of a game manager. I think under 237.5 here for Sam Bradford at minus 120 is a good play. Now, finally, Benjamin Watson for the New Orleans Saints comes in with a receiving yards total of 50.5. Now, earlier in the week, it looked like Brandon Cooks was going to be out. Now it looks like he might still play after practicing limitedly. There's a concern about concussion earlier, but now apparently that didn't turn out to be true. But whether or not it is true, I think the Saints will utilize Watson over the middle of the field. Against this Lovie Smith defense, you have to think that Watson's going to get some more targets this week after receiving 17 in his last 2 games, 8 receptions out of those 17 targets. But I think he can turn it into a big game here this week, especially if Cooks is in any way limited at all. 50 yards is not that much here for Benjamin Watson to go over if he receives double-digit targets this week in what could be a very, very high-scoring game. So I'm going to go over here at minus 115. Those are your player prop picks from Bet365. Best of luck to you on all 3 of those. Make sure you check out my team props as well. But until then, for Sportsbook Review, I'm Jordan Sharp.